Formula One, the Miami Grand Prix, sprint qualifying, not the race, the sprint qualifying, as the 2025 world champion Lando Norris takes sprint pole in Miami. It was a Mercedes domination so far in terms of the qualifying this season, as they, in all the category of qualifying, they usually got the pole. Whether that was in sprint qualifying in China or free qualifying, they always get the pole or 1-2. But this time this was different, as Lando Norris gets sprint pole, second position Kimi Antonelli, and third position Oscar Piastri. Very good result for McLaren. A brilliant result. Obviously they showed some good signs in Japan, where they were almost close to the win, and Piastri performed really well. Had a very good performance, and you could say he was unlucky to not win the race because of the safety car. At the same time, very good win very good pole position and very good result for McLaren. And they once again stepped up in Miami, as they've done a couple of times in the past. So yeah, let me get the results here. Yeah, Lando Norris first place, second place Kimi Antonelli, third place Oscar Piastri, fourth place Leclerc, fifth Verstappen, Russell sixth, Hamilton seventh, Colapinto eighth, Hadjar ninth, Gasly 10th. I mean, McLaren, you have to give them a lot of credit. I mean, they looked very strong. They looked in very good pace, and obviously the upgrades they promised that they were going to bring, the potential that Andrea Stella promised that we could see from this McLaren car starting from Miami to from Canada. It showed the qualities that they had with those upgrades, and they usually, you have to give a lot of credit to McLaren, because some teams, when they bring upgrades, sometimes they bring upgrades that don't work. But McLaren, especially in recent years, they always do well with their upgrades. They brought upgrades. I think it was Austria last season, and they dominated that race. And they brought upgrades in Miami 2024, where obviously Lando Norris won his first race. They brought upgrades in Silverstone in 2023, where they obviously had a very good result with Lando and Oscar. And that race was the turning point for the turnaround of that season, because that season they started the season badly, but then they turned around in the second half of the season. And this again, McLaren have had obviously a difficult start to the season with a couple of DNS, two to Oscar, one from Lando. However, they showed good potential in Japan, and this one was even better so far. We will still have to wait and see what they do in sprint qualifying and also the main race. But so far it's looking really good for McLaren. They're showing really good potential. It's looking really encouraging from them. Lando's been in very good pace this weekend in the practice. Yeah, he finished 7th, but if you looked at the pace he had, the quality that he was showing, especially in all sectors, and the pace he was showing, a couple of times he was putting purple sectors. He was looking very strong. McLaren were looking very strong. Lando was also strong in the whole qualifying, especially in the Q1 where he was on the edge. He was at some point, I think, in risk of being out in Q1, but he pulled a very good lap. He pulled another one for the Ep65. He performed really well. He performed fantastically well. Obviously, it's not been an easy start for Lando Norris for the world champion this season, with the issues he had to face that were not in his control. He didn't have much running in Australia, didn't have much running in Japan, DNS in China, but he performed fantastically well, and this is where he can show. When McLaren have running, when Lando has running, when he has sessions to practice, and he's on the momentum here. He has the momentum to do more laps after laps, because it's better to train instead of going to the qualifying session without having being participated a lot in practice sessions. So yeah, he performed really well. Lando, fantastic performance from him, and this for sure, the pole position should give him confidence and belief that he can continue with this kind of performance, because we haven't, let's be honest, we haven't there's not been much opportunities for Lando this season to show his level of quality because of the issues that he faced. I have to, as I said, but he performed really well, and if McLaren keep being, don't avoid this kind of issues, and they keep cooking with those upgrades, and they keep performing well with the car that they showed in this yesterday, Lando could get back to winning ways. So very good performance, amazing performance for Lando. But obviously the points on the sprint are scored today, not yesterday. Oscar Piastri, good decent performance from him as well, finishing third. However, he will be disappointed that he finished below his teammate, as his teammate got first position. Mercedes, it was not an easy session for them, practice and sprint qualifying. They were on the back foot, they were struggling compared to McLaren and some stages Ferrari. Especially on the mediums, they were looking very, very, not good enough compared to McLaren and Ferrari. However, when they put on the soft tires, Antonelli was able to do quite well. He finished second, and he did quite well. I mean, and as Antonelli said in the interview, Mercedes was struggling, and you clearly see it in this sprint qualifying practice. However, when they put the soft tires, somehow they looked better. So yeah, something for Mercedes to improve. But for sure, they look on the back foot here. Antonelli performed, considering Mercedes were on the back foot most of the Friday yesterday. For Antonelli to finish second and split the McLarens, he can be happy with that result. So yeah, not bad for Kim Antonelli, considering all the issues that Mercedes had to face yesterday. Whereas George Russell, he finished sixth position. He finished behind his teammate. He finished behind even Verstappen, where Red Bull have been absolutely terrible this season so far. Not a good weekend, not a good Friday, I should say, from George Russell. But obviously, points are scored in the sprint, and he can come back. But it's unusual to see George, being in this kind of off the pace in qualifying, because qualifying is usually his main characteristic, the strength, main advantages of his qualities. So yeah, but like George, I mean, if he wants to win the championship, I mean, I know he performed well in Australia, and he had some issues in China. He didn't have a good performance in Japan, and he didn't have a good performance in this, obviously, in this sprint qualifying. And it's early this season, long way to go, of course. But if he wants to win the championship, he needs to improve. He needs to improve his consistency. He needs to improve consistency, and he needs to improve, let's say, his mentality, and also treat Kimi Antonelli seriously. Because sometimes when you hear George Russell and Kimi Antonelli speaking interviews, they say that. And obviously George Russell is more experienced than Kimi Antonelli, and Kimi said that George is like a team leader at Mercedes, and George a lot of times helps Kimi Antonelli in the meetings they have when they look at the race, the strategy, or what they can do for the race, etc., or when they review the race. But at the same time, I think George Russell needs to take Antonelli seriously, and not look at him like, he's just a young kid, so yeah, whatever. He needs to look at him seriously, because if he wants to win the championship, he needs to level up his game, his performance, and also take Antonelli seriously. Because that's, from what I feel, I don't feel like Russell takes Antonelli seriously. So yeah, it feels like he underestimates him, in my opinion. So listen, Antonelli he doesn't have the experience, and still it's a first season where he has a very good car like Mercedes. So it's a lot of races to come will be tested on Antonelli's side. But he's Antonelli showed the qualities that he has, and if he keeps showing the qualities that he has, why can't he win the championship? So I think this is something. So I think this is why I say Russell needs to take Antonelli seriously. Ferrari, yeah, it's not been that special. They finished 4th and 7th. They were kind of competitive with McLaren, but again they were behind McLaren. They finished behind a Mercedes, where Mercedes has been on the back foot most of the times this weekend, on Friday. So yeah, and Charles Leclerc to finish 4th. He was very strong in Sector 1. I don't know what happened to him in Sector 2, Sector 3. Hamilton 7th, not good results from him. Ferrari, I mean, they usually struggle in qualifying. They mostly struggles in qualifying this season, but in the race pace they're always better. So let's see what happens to them. Red Bull have made a slight improvement with the upgrades, you have to say. Max Verstappen finished 5th. He had a great last sector, purple sector. He finished above a Mercedes, above a Ferrari. Slight improvement we saw from Red Bull, but obviously still not good enough for Red Bull to finish 5th and 9th, especially for Verstappen standards. It's not good enough for him to finish 5th. You could say obviously Red Bull have moved away from the midfield battle. They've moved away from the Alpine side, maybe except Hajar, but and they're better, but obviously still not enough to challenge the McLaren, to challenge the Mercedes, and to challenge Ferrari. Because I know Verstappen is above a Mercedes and a Ferrari, but he's also below other Ferrari and other Mercedes and 2 McLarens. So but let's see what they do for the rest of the weekend. Hajar finished 9th. Verstappen, he did really well against teammate. I mean, the record of Verstappen against Hajar this season has been like kind of close, but if you look at the gaps this time, it's not close at all. Verstappen is a second above Hajar. Colapinto did really well. He finished 8th. He finished above his teammate. Alpine 8th and 10th. Not a bad results from Alpine. Haas, they struggled, I have to say, 13th and 18th. Not great, not so much great from Racing Bulls. Aston Martin faced issues once again. So, you look at the sprint, what is the expectation? Obviously, first of all, we have to look at how the race starts is going to be. I mean, it's expected that the race starts is not going to be like unpredictable as it was in the first 3 races. So let's see how the drivers are going to go about it, the likes of Mercedes drivers, the Red Bull, Ferrari and McLaren. So it's going to be interesting to see how the race start happen. How does it happen? Because obviously how it shows, because the race starts in the first races and the sprint in China were unpredictable, and most likely because of the rule changes, it will be less predictable. Less unpredictable, I should say, in this sprint, and also Miami on Sunday. So let's see what happens. Hopefully, it still be a great race start. Hopefully, it won't be like massively worse than, let's say, the first 3 races. But I hope it will be a good race start. Let's see what happens. But you look at the pace of McLaren; they look very, very strong. I think McLaren have a good chance to win the sprint with the two drivers they have in the top 3. So I think Lando and Oscar have good chances to win the sprint. Kim Antonelli, if Mercedes they improve, and also and Kim has a good start as well. Maybe he has a good chance to do it as well. So I think the victory is between 2 McLaren drivers and Kim Antonelli. So and let's see what happens between, obviously, Leclerc, Verstappen, Russell, and Hamilton, of course. So, that's it, guys. Thank you. I wish you have a nice day. See you next time, and goodbye.